You get the promotion, the good review, the acceptance email you had been refreshing for weeks. And for about 4 seconds, it feels good. Then, a quieter voice shows up right behind it. They got it wrong. Someone made a mistake. You just got lucky, and eventually, they're going to figure that out. So you do the thing that feels like insurance. You downplay it before anyone else can. You mention the deadline you barely made instead of the work that got you there. You start quietly preparing an explanation for the day someone finally asks how you really ended up here. That's not humility. That specific fear, the fear of being found out for something you never actually did wrong, has a name. Naming it. Psychologists called it the impostor phenomenon, first described in 1978 by researchers Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. They studied high-achieving professionals, people with degrees, promotions, and real, visible success, and found that a striking number of them privately believed their success was a fluke, timing, charm, other people's mistakes, not their own ability. Later reviews estimate that most people experience this feeling at some point in their working lives, not as a rare glitch, but as something close to a default response to visible achievement. Here's the part that surprises most people. This feeling has almost no relationship to actual competence. Later studies found that people with strong, verified skills report imposter feelings just as often, sometimes more, than people who are genuinely underperforming. Some of the most competent people in a room are often the most convinced they don't belong in it. The feeling isn't measuring your ability. It's running a completely different calculation, one that has nothing to do with your resume. But that only explains what the fear feels like. It doesn't explain where the underlying rule came from. The rule that says competence has to be reproven constantly before it's allowed to be believed. The historical layer. For most of human history, your value to your group wasn't something you earned once and kept. It was demonstrated live, in front of the same people, over and over, because that group was your entire safety net. There was no resume, no title that traveled with you into a new tribe, no diploma that spoke for you when you weren't in the room, just an ongoing, real-time read on whether you were still pulling your weight, judged by people who had known you your whole life and had every reason to watch closely. Get that read wrong, and the consequences weren't abstract. In small, interdependent bands, being quietly reevaluated by the people around you was a recurring, high-stakes event, not a once-a-year performance review. That produced something genuinely useful at the time, a constant, low background check on your own standing, always scanning for the moment you might be falling short before anyone else noticed first. It wasn't paranoia. It was an early warning system, and it worked reasonably well in a world where everyone around you had known you long enough to actually judge you fairly based on years of real evidence. The modern amplification. Then work stopped being 10 people who'd watch you grow into your role and became a title, a resume, and a set of achievements you expected to keep performing for strangers who've never seen the years of practice behind them. Nobody hiring you today watched you struggle through the early, clumsy version of your skill. They only see the finished result, which means the story they have of you is built entirely on outcomes, with none of the context that would make those outcomes feel earned. Add in performance reviews, scored by people who barely know you, LinkedIn feeds full of curated highlight reels, and an entire economy built on visibly ranking people against each other, and that background check never gets to switch off. Everyone else's bio looks confident. Their captions are polished. Their job titles sound inevitable. You're the only one, it seems, quietly waiting to be caught, because you're the only one who can see everything that went into getting here. Notice how it actually shows up. It's rehearsing your explanation before a meeting, just in case someone asks how you really got this role. It's downplaying a win the second someone compliments it, redirecting credit to luck or timing or a generous boss. It's the reflex to say, "I got lucky," before anyone even suggests otherwise. It's staying quiet in a room full of people you assume know more than you, even when you've prepared more than half of them. The reframe. Here's what's actually happening. That fear was never evidence that you don't belong. It's an old monitoring system built for small groups where being wrong in public had immediate, visible consequences. Now running in a world full of resumes and screens where almost nobody around you is as certain as they look. You're not secretly unqualified. You're running an ancient guard system in an environment it was never built to read, checking for a kind of public failure that mostly doesn't happen the way it used to, and it doesn't know when to stand down. Close. So next time that voice shows up, right after something good happens, telling you it's about to be taken away, try naming what's actually happening. That's not proof you don't deserve it. That's an old alarm, mistaking a promotion for a tribal vote. You already did the work. The fear showing up afterward isn't a verdict. It's just noise from a system that hasn't caught up yet, still checking your standing in a group that stopped voting a long time ago.